Well, when we're working for corporate, we have a schedule that's already set for us. I didn't have that structure that I still needed. So I was taught a certain way to do things, but not really sticking to the plan. All about that conversation and actually listening and to take part of what they're saying and to pinpoint their actual motivation of why they really need to sell.
Welcome to another episode of Mike Drop. Today I am with Ellie Probst. Ellie, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, Mike?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. So for the people that don't know you yet, why don't you tell them a little bit about where you're from and how long you've been in the real estate business?
Sure. I'm Ellie. I'm from Orlando, Florida. I've been licensed as a real estate agent since 2004, but I'm active full time since 2018.
Gotcha. So what did you do before real estate?
I'm currently a registered advanced nurse practitioner specializing in heart failure services.
Okay. So you kind of got into the business of surfing, didn't you?
I did from the beginning.
What was that like going from being a nurse and then going into real estate? Like, was there something being a nurse that you saw that made you want to get into real estate?
You know, one thing I always tell people is that I treat my clients just like I treat my patients. So it was actually an easy transition for me because it's always about caring for someone.
No, absolutely. And tell me, what was your first year like in real estate? Because there's so many new agents that are in the business and people that are thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go make $1 million my first year. So what was your first year like in real estate?
Well, my first year full time in real estate wasn't too bad because I was doing transactions here and there for family all through the years that I had my license active, but not really practicing. It was a little challenging just because of the fact that going from corporate world to working for yourself was a big change. And so it was pretty shocking.
It's so funny that I meet so many people that get into real estate. And it's funny because they'll go to work for 10 hours a day for somebody else in the corporate world.
Mhm.
Yet when they become a real estate agent, they find it hard to go do the same amount of the hours for themselves. Why do you think it's so hard for agents to work harder for other people than they do for themselves?
Well, when we're working for corporate, we have a schedule that's already set for us. Like as a nurse practitioner, I have a schedule of patients that I have to see, or I have meetings to go to for administration that I have to be there. And
Mhm.
it's within four walls. And so it's very regimented. Coming out into real estate, it's really, you have to make your own schedule. And when you're an independent contractor, you can do whatever you want. But unfortunately, you can do whatever you want.
That's true. So how many deals did you do your first full year as a real estate agent?
First full year was one deal.
Yeah,
It
gotcha.
was
Just
amazing.
like,
It
just
was,
like everybody else.
yeah.
Me ask you something, because, what did you do every day to sell one house? Because, I mean, you have to do something really hard. I mean, I don't know if you do it right. You have to do something hard to work full time and sell one deal. So, what did a typical day look like for an agent that sells one house a year?
I'm going to be honest. I was actually working as a nurse practitioner and doing real estate at the same time. So
Okay.
really making the connections of people just knowing that I was going to transition in some way, that I was already letting them know that I'm going to be in real estate. So it's
Mhm.
more of the nurturing and planting that seed.
Right. So, did you get in? Because, most of the time in real estate, you either get into somebody that's heavy into prospecting, you get into people that are heavy into database. Did you start off following anybody, looking at people at the office? Like, what did you take as a baseline of the direction that you were going to run your business? Because obviously in real estate, there's tons of ways to run businesses, obviously some better than others.
I really didn't follow anybody. I went into a brokerage that was actually from Miami. And I had a great broker that was down there that would, have my back in terms of questions, but there was not really any camaraderie because it was very much almost like a cloud-based type of deal. And
Mhm.
so knowing that, I joined a brokerage in town so that I could have people that I could really connect with and be with. And
Mhm.
so that helped out a little bit in terms of the broker training that I had at the time. And so making, things work and trying to figure out who to network with because I didn't know anything about prospecting and making daily phone. Yeah. A lot of agents don't know.
I know. It's unfortunate. I always tell people that, as a real estate agent, there's three parts that you have to go through if you become successful. Part one is you have to believe that it's possible, because if you don't believe that it's actually possible, you'll never actually put the time in to do it. there's
Yeah.
a part where like you start to believe that you can do it. And then obviously the ultimate goal is to get where you understand your true value, because a high value real estate agent, we're changing our time for
Yes.
money. And it's funny when someone makes 100,000, if I was to say, would you come work for me for 250, they probably would do it. But the funny thing is, if they actually did all the things that I asked them to do, they'd probably make 500.
I,
So when was it that you started to feel that, what, like, I may be able to do this? Was there some breakout moment in your career where you started to like get a grasp and say, I can do this?
I think it was signing up for coaching, because I was at a point where, coming out of a corporate world of medical field, coming into something that's totally different, I had no structure. So I had to figure out, where can I find this structure? And it was a point where financially, I wasn't at a point where I could really afford one. But
Mhm.
I said, in order to thrive, I think I need to take one on board,
So
hire.
how many different coaching companies or coaches have you had in your career?
So I've had 3, including you.
Okay, perfect. So tell me about the first one. What did you grasp out of that? Because I think every coach kind of helps you with different things. What did the first one kind of tell you that you needed to do to kind of push you along the path?
So that's when I learned about scripts. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the basis of that program is the very basics of real estate, period. Knowing what to say and when to say it is the bottom line of making sure that you have that connection with somebody. Because if you don't know what to say, you'll get the absolute no.
No, absolutely.
We'll have no's every single time, but if you know what to say and be able to say it quickly, you get the yes.
No, absolutely. And what do you think you got from the second coach?
Second coach is more finesse in terms of getting the closes a little bit more faster, a little bit more aggressive, but I think I needed more. I needed more at that time.
Gotcha. And what do you think has been different with your third coach, which is obviously me? I've had the pleasure of working with you, I think for almost 5, 6 months now. Why don't
Yeah,
you tell them what was your production like the previous 6 months before me and you started working together?
sure. So January of this year to May, I closed 6 deals.
Okay. And what do you think during that 6 months? Obviously, you're in coaching, they're trying to help you. What do you think was missing when you look back at the first 6 months?
I believe I didn't have that structure that I still needed. So um, I was taught a certain way to do things, but not really sticking to the plan. And when I talk to you, just to, have a conversation about my mojo, for instance, the first thing you said when I really wanted to coach with you was, give me all your passwords. And it really freaked me out. I was like, what? He's going to know what I'm doing. What am I going to do?
Yes, it's funny because I think one of the biggest challenges with coaches is that they give information, they don't actually offer accountability. One of the requirements with anybody that I work with is I want your passwords, emails, so that I can physically look at what you're doing in your follow up and your mobile joke. Because it's funny, I literally was talking to someone, and I will leave their name out to protect the guilty. But I was like, how's your database going? Your calls? Oh, it's doing great. And I'm like, oh, well, I've got one screen open here that is your database, and it says there's no calls. I got your Mojo open here, and it says you made 5 contacts. So, like, is Mojo down today, or are you down? And there was a moment of silence, and I'm like, this is where you come clean. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to disappoint you. But accountability is something that I think is lacking just in the real estate industry. Everybody tells you to do something, but then do they actually follow up to make sure that you do it? So, what do you think was the difference between now and when we started, that you've been able to really take and obviously transform your business? Because how many deals have you done in the last 5 months?
A total of 23 going on 24.
Wow. I mean, six literally, and you got 24 and half and less time. I mean, what do you think was the difference?
You organizing my systems. I mean, I haven't had a coach that would even think about going into my systems and setting it up for me, because if I would have done it, it would have been all screwed up. But
Well, I have to tell you, to go into some of your the systems of the people I coach, it's called lots of alcohol, lots of vodka. I'm like, what did they do?
I was that bad. It was just missing stuff. But
No, I mean, I think it's people don't understand that to be a successful real estate agent, you have to have skills. But if you don't know how to properly put leads through a system, you just end up making the first contact and you don't make the second, third, fourth, or fifth. So many people in real estate overvalue the first contact, not understanding that 95% of your business comes from long-term lead follow-up. So where's most of your business coming from in the last 5 months?
Since you've got me working with my database and my past clients, it's really
What
coming.
did you say again? Database past clients.
I know. It's my lecture that I hear every day. Have you done it? Have you done it? But the thing is, you gave me.
The thing for you is that you've transformed your business doing a portion of what I say. I mean, I think if you actually took all the things with your database and did those, I mean, you probably would triple your business next year because, I mean, you've got amazing skills and you have a beautiful heart. But I think, you got this innocent look, but now you're starting to get the little teeth when they get in there. It's like,
That's what you told me when we first started. I'm like, there's no way you can find that girl. I don't know where she is, but knowing what you've given me in terms of following the cadence that you've, given me in terms of making the phone calls really helps, because you remember that I had call reluctance. I mean, I would literally be on the phones first thing in the morning and someone will pick up and they say hello and I would just hang up because it was fear, total fear.
Talk about that, because I think honestly the number one problem that most of the people that are watching this have is at some level they're all facing call reluctance, and a lot of people think that that's something that they're going to experience the rest of their life. How were you able to get past that? Because a lot of agents out there, they don't know how to do that. They get stuck right there. It's like they know they should make calls, they want to make calls, but the moment they hear hello, it's like wrong number.
Number, it's like click, I hung up. I was like, wow.
Is this Pizza Hut? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it was such a big challenge knowing that, I hear someone on the other end. The fear was not knowing what to say.
Yeah.
Not internalizing the scripts and not having scripts that were more conversational instead of being, very direct and not very formidable in terms of making that relationship. So the conversation.
That's one of the things that I think I've seen the most of you is when you learn what to say, it made you want to go out and do it. I mean, I look at you now and I mean, you have a different presence about yourself. When I say timid earlier is that you just didn't have the confidence to be able to go out and execute the things that you needed to do. When you know what to say, it completely transforms all of your conversations.
Exactly.
What is it like now going in and prospecting and not having to worry as much about call reluctance?
Oh, it's no problem. I go through the list of you telling me which expires to call first, and then the cancels, and then going into FISBOs, and then lead follow up, and then first just listed, just sold. So the cadence is there. It's just I have to make sure that I do it and protect my morning time, which has been such a big help in helping me with increasing my production.
Yeah, because for most people, they don't understand that your 8 to 12 is probably the most holy part of your business. You really shouldn't be answering calls, taking emails, because if you get a bad message about a deal blowing up an hour into your prospecting, what do you think the next 3 hours are going to be like?
My mind is just racing, and all I can concentrate is that deal going wrong, and I'm missing out on all the opportunities of helping another family that comes by.
Yeah, that's the thing I think I've always appreciated about you is that you've really embodied the part of going from selling to serving and being able to come out and know that like the number one goal you have, it's not to sell people, it's to try to help people.
Yes, that's what I wanted to know how to transition into, because I felt like that I was selling and not really serving.
Well, I think the number one reason why so many people sell with a lot of other coaches is that they're teaching them scripts versus teaching them like a framework. One of the things I try to teach people is that there's framework to having conversations, because if you're a script, it's like you can't control people with a script. It's like you're basically asking a survey. There's no emotion. And when you use emotion and you can show that you care and you're listening to them, instead of saying what the paper says, you're actually saying what you think they need to hear. And you can only do that by actually listening. So what was that like, transferring from being very script oriented to learning actually just like how to be a communicator, which is, I think, the path that I've really seen you go on, is just learning how to let go of scripts and learning how to communicate. Like I always say, the best presentations are making it a simple conversation. Tell me about that.
I think that's the whole point. It's all about that conversation and actually listening, and to take part of what they're saying and to pinpoint their actual motivation of why they really need to sell. Mm-hmm. I talk to everybody about, well, what makes me find these people is their life events. Are they having a baby? Are they having a divorce? Is it a probate? What do I need to do in order to solve their problem? You've always taught us we have to be problem solvers and be able to make sure that we take care of them.
Yeah, it's funny. I was on a coaching call today. This person was just telling me about all these problems, and I was laughing. I'm like, write this down. Problems are a sign you're alive. And I don't mean you, I mean your business. You have to realize that if there was no problems, the customers wouldn't need us.
Right.
We are paid in direct proportion to the amount of people we not only help, but help solve a problem.
Yes.
And people forget that when you solve a problem, there actually has to be a problem.
Exactly.
Everyone has to need something. They have to want something. Without a need or a problem or a want, we don't make any money. And then me and you are working at McDonald's saying, I could do some fries with your Coke. You know what I mean? I bet you we would do a pretty good job of it.
I think we would.
So tell me, as you look at, we're getting towards the end of 2024, what are some things that you kind of look back and you've taken away of, I really did a good job this year at improving that area?
I think it is knowing and learning my scripts the way I should be learning them to actually use them. One other thing is having accountability partners to keep track of my day to see if I'm really doing what I'm supposed to be doing and to reevaluate it at the end of the day to see if I've accomplished it. So
yeah, it was so fun the other day as I was taking all the people I coach one-on-one and we were doing our business planning. And it's so funny because all of you don't realize it, but you all are so alike. You all struggle with the same stuff regardless of production. You all struggle with, can I be more consistent every single day? How do I get my butt out of bed every day when I'm supposed to? How do I stay on the phone without like looking at my email and checking my text? How do I get myself to do the second shift when I don't feel like making any more calls? Why don't I call my database more when most of my business is coming from my database? It's kind of funny. I'm coaching one person now. It's like 48% of their business is the database. And I have to remind them every call to call it. You would think that if 48% of your business, you would do it, but that is literally me like shoving it down them. So, what do you think stops real estate agents from calling their database, which is the people that know them, like them, trust them? What do you think stops people from wanting to talk to people that they already know?
So with my accountability partners, we've had this conversation. It's because that we feel like that we're bugging them and that they know that when we call, they think that we're just going to ask about real estate. I said, if you flip it the other way, it's always, targeting their emotion in terms of caring about them and not just talking about the business. Because other things, we go straight to business and it doesn't come out that way. And that's why they feel that way. And so if you make it more conversational and more personal, then it becomes.
Yeah, I think for the first 15 years of my career, I was taught that ring, ring, hello, hi, this is a business call. And, the truth is that, if you want to get referrals at a high level, you have to be personable. You have to kind of open up. You can't just be, I'm a real estate agent. You need to be a real estate agent that's friendly and obviously helpful, which is every call, just letting them know that it's been a while since you talked to them and you wanted to check and see how they're doing. You want to check up. And then, and more importantly, finding out, what can I do for you? How can I serve you? How can I help you?
Yes.
What do you need?
Makes it much easier.
I just think that so many people get nervous, but if you ask someone how you can help them first, and then you give them information about what's happening in the market, is much easier to segue that and say, well, do you know anybody that may be looking at taking advantage of what's going on between now and the beginning of spring? The thing is that the more you talk to your database, the easier it gets. I was talking to one of my new people yesterday, and it was like, when you have A's, people that have given you referrals, you don't have to call them every month. You can call them in January, and then in February, say, hey, was just thinking about you. How are you? Texting is probably one of the greatest things that agents can do in between phone calls to keep the relationship alive. I literally got a referral 3 months ago where I'm on my phone prospecting. I text one of my past clients, hey, was just thinking about you. How are you? They're in Mexico. He's like, I'm in Mexico. I'm like, well, send me a picture. And he's like, and then I sent him a picture of me with my headset on. And it was funny because he was with one of his friends and he was telling his friends he was on the phone with his agent. And his friend was like, I'm looking to sell my property. And it was just funny. Like, had I not made the text to that person in that moment, I mean, do you really think when people are on vacation at Cancun, swimming in the waves and eating food and probably drinking lots of alcohol, that they're probably thinking about, hey, I got a great real estate agent? So it's like, it's our job to remind people consistently. And it's not, hey, I want to, referral. It's asking, how are you first? Checking, what are you doing? It's funny when they're away, you always say, send me a picture. And they're like, ah, and then you're like, I'm at work, and it creates playfulness, because the more playful you get with your database, like, the easier it is to have those conversations where instead of you feeling like you have to ask, they'll start to refer you.
Yeah. I just think it's not being scripted. I'm gotten away from that and made it more conversational. Bottom
What's
line.
it like to just think about having a conversation versus thinking about 1,000 things you have to say?
Exactly.
What
Makes
has that been like to transition?
What's it been like? It was hard because we were trained a certain way. And then to go to that to be actually a natural thing to do is harder. I don't know why.
Yeah. It's funny, Steve Powers was one of my coaches. He really taught me about the power of like asking questions. And then, I was with Tony Robbins, and it's like Tony Robbins was like taking questions, but he was adding in emotion and he was connecting in like a deeper way. And it was really cool to be able to take kind of two styles and kind of put them together, where you can get the best of both worlds by asking questions, but also getting the emotional side. Because people forget that logic makes people think, emotion makes people act. The
Mm-hmm.
more you can get people to feel, the more likely they are to actually do business with you.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So I know that you're having your son come on your team this year. What is that like, being a successful real estate agent, having your son come into business?
I asked about him coming into the business about 5 years ago. I sent him to real estate school and mortgage broker school, and he passed both exams. And when it was time to take the state exams, he was like, pulled me aside and said, Mom, it's really not for me. And I didn't want to push that. And so I let it go. And he's seen me progress over the last 5 years. And so now he's at a point where he's interested. And he asked me, he was like, I really think I should help you. And so he took the exam and he passed it. And I said, well, guess what? You're ready to go see Mr. Putnam.
He's going to whip you into shape.
That's right.
So let me ask you, I mean, obviously, if you could go back in time to yourself on day one, knowing what you know now, and obviously having a son that's going into the real estate business, what advice would you give your younger self when you started day one, and obviously give your son and really any agent that's either in the business now or just started?
I think it's, for me, being in your bullpen is like prospecting school and seeing how it's done right. I mean, being in your bullpen and seeing many Putnams prospect is just amazing. And I tell them how fortunate they are to be in there, knowing that, we have you as one-on-one, but seeing you on a daily basis like that is just amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool when people come in there. But I think one of the things that I think a lot of people that I coach with, when they see me with this skill that they feel like can never have, but then they come to my office and they can see people that are very young
Yes.
that are similar.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows you that it's not something that like I was born with. It's something that like if you work and you practice, like it's something that you can obtain, because learning what to say and asking questions and being playfully confident, those are all traits that any agent can have. But they have to make sure, they have someone they follow that actually does it. And that's the challenge, is that most of the real estate coaches that are out there, I mean, they're just filling you with like filler. It's like information. Here's a script, go practice. And the problem is, if all you do is read a script, the moment someone takes you off a script, what do you have? It's like, will you cut your commission? No. Any other question? Well, the other agent said they would. The other questions? Well, the other agent did it. I mean, is that something you're doing? No. Any other question? It's you have to learn how to communicate. A script is not enough. The magic in real estate and sales, it happens in between those conversations.
Yeah, I like it when I call them your students. When they get stuck on the phone and they actually turn to you and ask you, what should I do? And you jump in there sometimes to help mediate the conversation to get that yes for an appointment. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, but one of my dreams was to always get some kind of a action workshop like I used to take back in the day, and then mix it in with having people come down in volume with prospecting. So I'm having an office built now. Hopefully it'll be done in February, where every other week I'm going to allow agents to come down and actually not only prospect with a group of 15 or 20 agents, but prospect alongside my team so that they can actually see what one of the top real estate teams in America is doing. And at the same time, I'll get to spend a couple hours with them and be able to show them exactly what to say, and then obviously go out and execute. I know when you came down and shadowed me the first time, what was it like working two shifts? And what I say about two shifts is we always do it 8 to 12, you have lunch, and then it's like I got to do it all over again from 2 to 6. What was that like, understanding that in every day you really have two shifts?
So that was very new to me, knowing that I should have been doing it, but doing it with a room full of people that are also doing it made me more energetic to actually be on the phone and making appointments during that time, because I didn't think, you know what, everybody's coming home, they're not going to want to be talking to me. But it really is a place where they're already, relaxed from the day. There's different callers. First in the morning, they're already angry. In the afternoon, mid afternoon, they're okay. But in the late afternoons, they're more conversational. And I really like that fact, that knowing that other people are doing it too on your team, and having successful appointments made gave me the energy.
Did it intimidate you when you came in there to watch all these people standing up at desks? There's music, they're prospecting, they're dicing people up. What did it feel like when you were in there for the first time? Well, what have I got myself into?
I did. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Because we were taught quiet room, little room, be focused only on your calls and nothing else.
Yeah.
Having the distractions actually helped me concentrate even more of what I want to say, because distractions are always thrown at you, and knowing how to maneuver around it and be on this Johnny spot, saying what I needed to say was very important. So
It's funny. One of the people I coach had sent one of his agents down to have me train. And like I'm listening and he's just like whispering. And and he was like, when do you plan? And I was just like, what is going on? And I'm watching, and it's like, I just want to know, when do you plan on interviewing? And I walked over. I'm like, are you selling? Are we doing phone sex here? You know what I mean? Why are you whispering? He's like, I didn't know, because he was so intimidated by the environment. And it was funny that, he spent 4 days with us, and then he came back to the office and he's got his hat on backwards. He's got rap music playing and he's dicing up people on the phone. And the person was like, what have you done to him?
it's just it changes you. It changes you completely, because of the fact that you can see that it can be done in a playful, enjoyable way. And that's what you've taught me, to have fun, actually.
I mean, that's the most important thing. I mean, to do the job that we do and be on the phone and prospect for the amount of hours, if you can't have fun and listen to crazy music and have people that are around you wild, I mean, the people that work for, I mean, sometimes I'm like, what the hell have I got myself into? You know what I mean? Because there's just so many different personalities. I mean,
Yes.
now they got these swords and they're like prospecting and sword fighting now. I mean, I looked the other day and it was like Kareem and Christian, like, and they're like got the headsets on prospecting, and I'm just like, I
Yes.
mean, okay, I mean,
I can't wait. I'll be up.
you know what? You can sword fight. There you go. You got something to look forward to. But the funny thing is, like, if you don't find a way to enjoy the process, it's just this business is too tough. I think, we were doing our business planning even with my team, and I was talking to them. It's like everyone sets a goal for 300, 400, 500.
Yeah.
The truth is, you don't want the money. What you really want is to become the kind of person that has the discipline, that has the skills, that has the abilities, and is consistent enough to make that kind of money. Because if you become the person, then you always have it. So many people try to take a shortcut to get the money. And the problem is, if you take a shortcut, you never become the kind of person that can do that. Because if you can get to 5 or 600,000 this year, you could get to 800, 850 the next year. And then a year later, you're at $1 million. So I know I've talked to you about that. What is it like to think that in the next 3 to 4 years, you're going to have a 7 comma year?
Well, before you, I would never have thought about it, because of the fact that I didn't feel I had the potential to push myself forward to even get the deals that I have currently. And knowing that if I do as much as you tell me that I'm supposed to do, I could, like you said, triple my business.
Yeah. It's
I
so
know.
funny that, obviously people talk to one person or another. And, when people talk about me, other coaches in the industry, the one thing that they always say is that Mike is going to try to make you like him. Now, granted, he's the Michael Jordan of real estate, but Michael Jordan couldn't manage a team. Michael Jordan couldn't coach a team. And the funny thing is that I'm trying to make everyone the opposite of me. I can give you the skills, but I want you all to build a business where in 3, 4 years, the majority of your business is coming from your database. I have the analogy as like, as you grow your business, there's two choices. Number one is that you can power it through a light bulb, which is either you buying lots of business or you powering yourself up on the phone, or you can build a big database and be powered by the sun. You see, the sun is free. The sun feels better. And the sun is what you really should base your business of wanting to grow a business where literally you're outside in the sun and you're making a ton of money versus sitting in an office under the fluorescent lights, waiting for someone to call you or you going out and trying to find people. So I guess as you try to go into 2025, what do you think are 3 things that you're really going to focus on to try to improve your business and try to get more of the sun so that in the future you have to use less of the light bulb? What an analogy.
I know, right? Love it. I think we talked about expanding the team, and I have my transaction coordinator on board and having, the assistant to help me grow, and having that buyer's agent and virtual assistant moving forward to help build the numbers. So
Why do you think early in the year you struggled so much, just like a lot of people in the one-on-one, which you heard in our one-on-one group call, struggling with buying or getting an assistant? Why do agents struggle with the thought of having to get help?
I think there's 2 things.
Okay.
The first thing is letting go. Because for me, I think I'm a perfectionist and I don't think anybody can do it better than me. And the second is, paying that person the amount of money that should be paid to them in order to do the job that they need to do. So I think it's the fear of having that income directed towards the new person.
And the funny thing is that so many agents forget that, like, for most areas, you're probably 3 to 4 deals is what you need to break even with the assistant. And
Mhm.
then the question is, if you got 8 hours of your day back, if you can't sell 4 houses more a year, like, you deserve whatever the hell you get. Cause like, if you actually hired an assistant and couldn't sell 4 more houses, I probably would have to find out who you are. I would have to come out and kill you, dissect your brain, and come up with some kind of a vaccine. So if it ever happened again, because it's never been done, we could help mankind in the future if that disease ever came back. Because I mean, you would have to work really, really hard to get an assistant and not find a way to sell 3 or 4 more houses.
I agree. I totally agree.
No, but it's just so funny that so many people, they take too long to make the decisions. As a coach, I can see things in advance that like you can't see. It's funny. I literally had one guy, Mark Harbor. I'm not going to mention his name for the guilty. Mark Harbor. Yeah, sorry. I have to call you out. But I mean, he literally made like 70 grand in like March or April. I'm like, get an assistant. You can afford to have like 4 of them now.
Yeah, right.
We waited literally like 4 or 5 months to get one. And like every month the income, started to go down. And I'm just like, get an assistant. It's like, but I'm saving money. And I'm just like, well, your P&L statement is going down, not up. So I mean, I'm trying to figure out where's the money you're saving.
All right.
But I think, letting go of stuff is probably the hardest part, but also understanding is like, if you can't let go and get 80% at scale, you can't scale your business. If you can hire people to do things for you, even at 80%, that's success.
Mhm.
Because the truth is that are we really 100%? Are we really perfect? No, no. That's the funny thing. Everyone's like, I'm perfect. I do it. And it's like, well, I mean, you messed this up and this up and this up and this up. You know what I mean? Delegating is hard. Even, with Christian taking a bigger role in my company, it's funny that letting go of just being able to manage and delegate and watching him do it, it's hard. It's hard to take parts of your job that you love and do, and to know that A, that person can probably do it just as good as you. And B, I think it's hard because like there's a feeling of like achievement when you do those things. You know what I mean? And letting that go and watching someone else take credit and do those things. Did you experience a little bit of that as you started to delegate out?
Absolutely. I was watching them with a, a fine, looking glass, and I was just like, man, are they doing it the right way? And then I just finally just had to let go because it was stressing me out more than anything else.
Because, for most real estate agents, if you really, really want to do it at a high level, you want to take a certain amount of time to build your business, build the people, assistants, the buyer agents, and all the pieces around it so that one day you can scale yourself out of it. And then you have something to show for it. I can't think of anything worse than being in real estate for 15 or 20 years and just basically closing the doors and having nothing to show for it. It's funny because, no one ever told me how to get out. Like I was told how to get into real estate. You make a lot of calls, but like getting the hell out of real estate and, it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done,
Yeah.
because, part of you wants to be a part of your team. It's like you set up the appointments and then I want to go and do it. But you know that if you keep
Like,
going
let
on the
them.
appointments, it doesn't get you out. You know what I mean? And it
Right.
was weird the last 6 months for myself as I started setting appointments and getting my agents to go out. Just that feeling of like, oh, I don't know if I like this,
Can you
Then
relate?
also watching them be successful and start to believe in themselves, it started to make it seem like, wow, for the first time in my own life, we always say, you have to know it's possible. You have to believe that you can do it. And then like you're learning your true value. And I think for me in my own business and scaling yourself out, this is like the first year that I could do this. I can pull myself out. I can delegate this. I can set appointments for that person. They take all the credit. And, the cool thing about delegating is when the person you delegate takes ownership of that.
Yes.
It's like, it's probably one of the most beautiful parts as you build a business is delegating it out and then watching that person when you give them 100% autonomy, owning that part. And the other day, I was watching Christian and there was an issue and he just handled it. And I was just like, wow, like he did better than I did, and it was really cool to see that he took that role and like he took ownership as if it was his own. And I think, for a lot of people out there, as you start to scale your business, if you don't get an assistant and delegate and trust them to do it, like you end up doing all the work and you end up paying them.
Mhm. It's so great to see Christian grow the way he's growing. So I'm really proud of him.
Yeah, well, I think it just shows you. I got him when he was 21. He just turned 30. It's just amazing what a person can do if
Mhm.
every single day they commit themselves. Because I see so many people as they get into real estate or they're struggling,
Mhm.
is they're like, I can't do it. But they forget that they're saying they can't do it because of like the activities they're doing. They don't realize that if you actually put your head down in year after year after year, improve, it's like money, it compounds.
Yes.
And then eventually you get on a roll and you become something that like you never thought that you'd become.
It's that legacy that I
Yeah.
want.
Well, I think even for you, I think, and I talk to so many people where, they think that like, because agents have started in like their 40s or 50s, that like it's too late. And it's like, you have no idea what 18 months of actually committing to yourself, of getting up on time, making your calls on time, following up your leads on time, calling your database on time, like how that scales out over time, year after year. In 18 months, you probably, if you really committed to, you could make $1 million.
I'm planning on it. I'm gonna
Let
have to hold me to it.
me ask you something. What do you think that would be like when you think about making $1 million? What do you think that would just do for you mentally, spiritually? Like not the money, but becoming the kind of person that developed themselves into a person of high value.
I think we talked about this about worrying, and I don't think it's about the worrying. It's about, feeling the accomplishment for myself in order to be able to reach that level, knowing that it's doable. And you made me see that. Before my thought process was more pessimistic, and
Yeah.
now I have a more optimistic outlook that it is doable, and you make it doable for what you've taught me. So
Because the funny thing is that I help people with real estate, but what I really help people do is find the parts of themselves that somewhere in life they lost. None of us are broken, but I think a lot of us, it's like I watched my daughter at 2. As
yeah.
soon as she hears music, she just wants to dance and shake. You know what I mean? And it's
I
like
see.
Yeah, I know. And it's like at some time in life, somewhere, someone told us to stop dancing.
Yeah.
There's that kid inside of us that believed when you're a kid, you could do anything. I can fly. I never forget, I was like 6 years old and I got a Spider-Man slingshot. And I remember hitting a button and the suction cup went up and I jumped. And there's like a little string holding a 50-pound person. So you know how that ended. you know,
You're like, it didn't work that way.
because is that when we're young, we believe that we can do anything. And it's like at some point, somebody told us that we have to be an adult. I was thinking just as a message for people in 2025, what if somehow we went back in time and found the moment that we stopped being a kid and then we took that kid and said, look, I got to borrow you. And we brought him back to today. Because I think for a lot of people to achieve the goals they want in 2025, we have to go back and find the little kid that believed that they could do anything. The little kid that when they saw the puddle, they didn't bitch, oh my God, it's a puddle. They just jump right in it. It's funny, my daughter that's two, the other day was like a puddle. She sees it, she's like, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. And I just changed her and she's like wet and dirty. And it's just, you know, I think kids look at the earth as a playground.
Oh,
And I think, for 2025 is a message for a lot of people. What if in 2025 we found the kid and consciously chose to make 2025 our playground, where instead of having to go out and do things, what if we just got to go out and play every day? Because the truth is that we get to go out and call and laugh and serve and help, and we get paid a ton of money to do it. So my question for you is, what do we got to do to find that little girl?
It's all about having fun, I think, and knowing that you're not just my real estate coach, you're my business coach, my personal coach. And you talk about relationships, and having something grounded for me is very important. And you bring it all together. It's not just one aspect of the business, it's the whole thing.
I know sometimes like, hold on a second, I'll be right back. Let me get my Dr. Phil hat on.
I know. Use that prescription for love and therapy.
I think so many people, they think I want success, but success, what is success?
Mm-hmm.
To me, success is being grateful for what you have and who you are right now in this moment while you chase everything that you want and you become the person that you want. If you're not grounded and grateful for what you have, because I think so many people forget that there's people every single day on the earth that would literally change in a second to be us. Every single day they go to bed praying to God that they're us, and then here we are, and we don't take advantage of it.
Yeah, very true. I'm
I
so
think,
grateful for everything.
yeah, I know. I think going into next year, not just you but everybody, I think everyone needs to recommit to finding that kid in them and recommitting to their dream. I know when I got into real estate, I was, I'm going to make money, I'm going to do this and that. Because I remember seeing some old guy that made 330 grand, and I'm like, well, if that guy can do it, I can do it. Somewhere along the line, I meet so many agents that they lost the dream. And I think in 2025, we need to make sure that we recommit to our dream. And number two, I think have blind faith to never stop.
Mm-hmm. It's all
Because
about
we have ups and downs, but the ability to never stop is something that I think all of us need to work on. So if you could give two pieces of advice before we leave to any agent out there for 2025, what do you think it'd be?
Well, definitely coaching. That's a must. I don't care what you do. I have coaching with at the gym, but this is actually for not just for business growth, but for personal growth. And obviously, having people be accountable with you, because if you don't have that support from the community, whether it's friends, family, or anybody in the business, it helps build your own self-worth. And I think, value is what comes out of it.
Gotcha. So tell everyone what your goal is for next year so that everyone in the earth can hold you accountable so that next year, when I bring you back on, they can hear your story.
Well, we know it's 60.
Okay.
But the stretch is 75.
Okay. How does it feel when you think about that?
A little scary.
Yeah.
Obviously.
When you have a goal that scares you, that's how you know that it's a good goal. I remember Mike Ferry telling me in 2006 that, if I wanted to have a good 2007, to go out and find the biggest house I could find, something that like so big that when I walked into it, the thought of owning it would freak you out. You would talk and you would hear it echo because it's so big. and then you would go back to the office to write the offer, and then you would see your monthly payment, and then your stomach would get really, really, really nauseous. And that's how you know that it's the right house. And it's funny because, my girlfriend at the time and wife now was Beth, and she was there, and she's like, yeah, I like this. I like this goal. Like a day later, she's like, I found it.
Of course.
I remember looking at that payment. It was like $7,700, 2006. But, I grew into that person. And I think for a lot of people, you need to stop living life not to lose
Mhm.
and play to win. So many people play life so safe, and then they stay safe. You can't play to lose. You have to play to go out and win, because if you don't go out and chase everything you want, it doesn't come to you. There's never been a lion that I've seen that sits there and watches the little buffaloes go by, and the buffalo's like, hold on 1 second, I'll be back. And they're like, I'm going to go jump in the lion's mouth.
No.
If you want a buffalo, you have to go out and get it. I think going into next year, I just think people that when you make a conscious decision to do it, don't stop until you have it. So, Ellie, if people want to get a hold of you, talk to you, tell them how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. You can call me at 407-414-1903, and it's lsalesflorida@gmail.com or lsalesflorida.com.
Well, Elle's so thankful that you came, and we look forward to having you back next year.
I appreciate you so very much.
All right. See you later.